Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. We had an opportunity on Monday to talk Indians baseball with Mandy Bell. Now it's time to cover the Pirates, and what better person to talk about the Pirates than a guy that I think knows everything there is to know about Pirates baseball, and he's one of the best in the business. He is John Perrotto, and he joins us on the YSN hotline. John, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. And before we even get the interview started, a little over a month ago, John had open heart surgery. And to your credit, man, have you bounced back in a big, big way. It's like it's John Perrotto back in his 20s again.
Yeah. I feel very, very fortunate. I had quadruple bypass surgery, and fortunately the recovery's gone pretty much without a hitch, and pretty much back to normal. And it's been good. I've recovered a lot faster than I thought I would, and I'm very grateful for that.
John, let's talk a little bit about the Pirates. Obviously, Derek Shelton is going to have his hands full in a lot of ways. He comes in as a first-year skipper, and unfortunately, due to injuries, he will not have two of his top starters on the mound in Chris Archer and Jameson Taillon. So his starting rotation is a little bit limited, though he does have an impressive bullpen in some regards. Talk a little bit about the pitching and what the Pirates are hoping to get out of some of their young kids who are going to be having the task of being a starting pitcher in this 60-game season.
Well, the young pitcher they're most interested in seeing is Mitch Keller, who is considered one of the top pitching prospects in baseball the last few years. He made 11 or 12 starts last year for the Pirates. Was very shaky early on, looked like kind of the deer in the headlights type of deal, Ron. He really looked overmatched, but toward the end of the season, even though his numbers didn't show it, he did pitch better, and you could see why he was so well thought of in the minor leagues. So they're hoping that, now that he has some big league experience under his belt, that he'll settle down and turn out to be a pretty good pitcher. They have Joe Musgrove, who's been with them for a couple of years now, Trevor Williams in the same boat, and they both need to take steps up. I think there's no doubt. They've shown at times they could be quality major league pitchers, but they haven't been overly consistent, and they're both going to need to have to improve this year, especially, as you said, Taillon and Archer are going to miss the whole season. And they also have, they're looking to piggyback starters in one situation with Stephen Brault and Chad Kuhl, which is kind of an interesting concept. Like each would pitch 3 or 4 innings. Brault is left-hander. He's not a workhorse type guy, and he seems to tire out after about 4 innings. And Chad Kuhl, who throws very hard and showed some promise a few years back, is coming off Tommy John elbow surgery. And so they don't want to push the envelope and have him pitch a lot of innings as he's on his way back. So they're going to piggyback those two guys together, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out because, like between the two of them, they can give the Pirates an effective start or, I should say, outing every 5 days. So really the Pirates are going to go pretty much with guys who already have been there. They also have Derek Holland, who's a veteran left-hander. They signed to a minor league contract. He'll also probably be in the rotation. So they have some pitching prospects on the way that they don't feel are quite ready yet. So really Keller kind of holds the key as far as young pitchers.
John, it's an interesting concept you bring up with Kuhl being piggybacked, and I think it's an excellent move by the Pirates because, again, a guy coming off Tommy John surgery, you certainly don't want him throwing 6-7 innings at a time. So in this 60-game season, this might be a blessing in disguise to Chad Kuhl's career, depending on how the organization handles Chad Kuhl in 2020. And by all accounts, this might be the perfect scenario for Kuhl to be completely over Tommy John surgery by the time we reconvene in 2021.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ron. Certainly, it works him back into game situations. It gets him back, his feet back on the ground as far as his career goes. But again, you don't overtax him if you only pitch him 3 or 4 innings at a time. So I think it's a good move. It really is. It's a smart move because Brault is a 5-inning pitcher at most. So you limit his exposure as far as going around the lineup more than twice. Then you limit Cole from having to pitch too many innings. And if they both benefit from the shorter outings, and at least in theory they should, then really that's a pretty creative way to fill one of the rotation holes.
The pitching is kind of uncertain in Pittsburgh, but the lineup and the offense is not uncertain. They definitely have some bats in there that can really make some noise. What are the expectations for the Pirates' offense this year?
Well, they should be able to score some runs. They don't have a whole lot of power beyond Josh Bell and Gregory Polanco, their first baseman and the right fielder. But what they do have is they have, and it's something that's rare in today's game, they have a lot of guys that make consistent contact. They don't strike out a whole lot. They put the ball in play, and I think that's going to help. They do get runners on base. They have to do it more the old-fashioned way instead of just waiting for home runs. They have to manufacture runs sometimes. But I think their offense will be okay. I really do. I like, Brian Reynolds, the left fielder, and the shortstop, Kevin Newman. They both finished in the top 10 in the National League in batting average last year. So, I mean, they look like they could be, potential foundation pieces for this team. You have Adam Frazier, the second baseman, who's a pretty good hitter. They need more from Colin Moran, the third baseman. He has power potential, but it just hasn't translated to the major league level, and I really think they need help there. And also Gerard Dyson, the veteran center fielder on a 1-year contract, they could use. They don't have a lot of stolen base potential, and he is a guy who can steal bases. But if he can get on base and run a little, that should help their offense too.
John, I know that Colin Moran is getting pushed by a son of a former big leaguer. Talk a little bit about Brian Hayes and what he may bring to the table on this 2020 Pirates team.
I'm not so sure we'll see him this year, Ron. He had a decent year with the bat in AAA. He only hit 10 home runs, though. He's a great defensive player. He's considered one of the best fielding third baseman in the entire minor leagues, just not in the Pirates organization, but all through baseball. But he apparently, there's something going on. He's yet to take part in camp, and Major League Baseball has put a gag order on explaining why certain guys, anything to do with COVID, they really can't talk about it. So apparently, he either has the coronavirus or he's been in contact with somebody who has and is quarantining. So I think because of that, he is so far behind. I don't think he'll be on the opening day roster. I think you may see him get a shot later in the year if the Pirates fall out of contention, but he's definitely the third baseman of the future. And it really hurts that they won't have a minor league season, as you really need to go back to AAA and show some more power and show some more consistency with the bat.
John, you talked a little bit about Gregory Polanco. The last couple of years have been injury-riddled, to say the least, but when Polanco is healthy, man, this kid can perform both on the field and at the plate. How healthy is he coming into the 2020 campaign?
Well, I saw him a little bit the day I was at their camp, and he looked good. What I was impressed with was his throwing. He had shoulder surgery late in the 2018 season. He was limited to about 40-some games. I forget the exact count last year, but he didn't play a whole lot coming back from that surgery. He had problems with the shoulder. But he's got one of the better arms in the National League as far as outfielders are concerned. And it looked like he'd regained a lot of that arm strength watching him in fielding drills. And I know the Pirates have raved about, especially some of his teammates, how the balls really jumped off his bat in inter-squad games and scrimmages and things like that. How that translates to real games, you never know for sure. But certainly the news has been encouraging on him so far in this summer camp.
Some of the younger teams in the MLB have come out and kind of express interest in some unconventional ways to handle their pitching rotation this year. Do you think there are any opportunities for the Pirates to explore some of these unconventional kind of ways to handle their pitchers?
Well, I think they'll rely quite a bit on the bullpen early on because I don't think you're going to see too many starting pitchers go 6 or 7 innings right out of the chute. Although I do, as I mentioned, the piggyback idea with Perrotto and Cole, that's one way they're going to handle the fifth starter spot. Other than that, I think it'll be fairly conventional unless they get another injury because they don't have a lot of starting pitching depth now with 2 guys on the IL for the season. So it remains to be seen. I know Derek Shelton, managed the Minnesota, or was the bench coach, I should say, in Minnesota the last 2 years. They used the opener from time to time, the Twins, and he is open to that. So I would imagine if they have any more starting pitching injuries, we'll probably see the opener, for a bullpen game where you have 6 or 7 guys, combined to throw an inning or 2 each. So I think, they're open to these ideas, and I think, another injury, they're going to have to go to them as plan B.
John Perrotto, our guest, he covers the Pirates, and he's a fantastic writer for Major League Baseball within the Pirates organization, as well as writing about Major League Baseball in general. Before we get outside of the Pirates, the conversation we had, knowing that you were coming on the show, a bunch of us were talking about what happens if Trevor Williams uncorks a dominant performance, a stretch of baseball like he did the second half of the 2018 season. You could see Williams with 10, 11, 12 starts having that kind of a stretch. Man, that would go a long way to determine whether or not the Pirates can be a team that could sneak into postseason with a 60-game schedule.
Yeah, they need that from somebody. But, Williams has shown, like you said, he's shown he is capable of putting together that kind of stretch. Whether it's him, whether it's Musgrove, I'm not too convinced Derek Holland at this stage of his career is going to do that. Or maybe it's Keller, too. I mean, if one of those 3 guys can really be lights out for most of those 11 or 12 starts that you mentioned, then, yeah, the Pirates have a chance. And, I don't know if any of them are. I mean, Williams has done it. Musgrove has shown signs, but not for that long of a stretch. And, Keller is well regarded. But, we'll have to see. But, yeah, if Trevor Williams can reprise the second half of 18, it's going to help the Pirates quite a bit.
All right, John, let's put your prognosticator hat on. I mean, it's a 60-game season, and I've contended you can expect the unexpected in a 60-game season. Are there a couple of teams that, 162-game season, probably not contenders, but in a 60-game season, they could very well upset the apple cart around baseball this year?
One team I like, and, talking to other people in baseball, scouts, front office type people, one team a lot of people, and this is a bit of a surprise, the Toronto Blue Jays seem to be gaining a lot of momentum as, at least with people in the know, of being one of those teams. And they do have a lot of young talent in their lineup, including Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, Dante Bichette's son. And, they bolstered their starting pitching. They signed Hyun-Jin Ryu from the Dodgers, who was the National League Cy Young runner-up last year. They have one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, Nate Pearson, and they have a couple other veterans that they added in the offseason. So maybe I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. A lot of people I trust, a lot of people who really know the game think the Blue Jays might be that surprise team in a short season. So I'll jump on that bandwagon.
I was talking with Anthony, and we were going back and forth before we got you on the air, and I'm convinced Tampa Bay is going to have a better record than the Yankees in the American League East this year. And now that you've mentioned Toronto, the American League East might be a lot more fun this year than it's been in quite some time. I think Boston's down, Baltimore's rebuilding, but if all accounts are true coming out of Toronto, this could be a fun 3-way race. And if Boston gets some health, maybe even a 4-team race in the AL East.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I think the Yankees and Tampa Bay are clearly 2 of the best teams in baseball, and at the very least, I could see those 2 in a tight race all the way through. And if Toronto is that team that a lot of people in baseball expect, And it could be fun, and especially in the short season. I mean, basically, the pennant race starts next Thursday when the season starts. That's going to be the interesting part of this whole thing. It's like everybody has jumped right into the middle of a pennant race. It's not like normally by this time of the year there'd be a certain number of teams who you would say have no chance to make the playoffs. There already be 20, 25 games out of a playoff spot. So it's really hard to predict. And I know a lot of other people have asked me, too, to try to make some predictions, and I don't really know. I think this is so unique, unlike any season any of us have ever experienced. I don't know what to make of the whole thing, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting how everything unfolds if they're able to even have a full season with the pandemic. But if they do, I think it's going to be fascinating how this all turns out.
John, is it safe to say that the first 10 games of this 60-game shortened season are going to turn out to be perhaps the most important 10 games of baseball for every team? Because you don't want to get off to a really bad start.
No, I think a 1-9 start, a 2-8 start, I don't want to say completely takes you out of playoff contention. But boy, it gives you an uphill climb in a 60-game season. You're already a sixth of the way into the season, and you're 5 or 6, 7 games under 500. I think everybody, it's always one of those, we'll ease into it, and we got all summer to make up ground if we fall behind. Well, you don't have all summer to make up ground. It's basically a 9-week season, or 8-week season. So, there's not a whole lot of ground to make up. So, I wouldn't say it's impossible if a team gets off to a bad start, but I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than it would be in a normal 162-game season, that's for sure.
Regular season's going to be fun, but the postseason, me and Ron were talking about it before you came on. Once you get in the postseason, it kind of goes back to normal baseball. You can't fake the postseason. You can't fake the better team winning in a 7-game series. Do you kind of buy into that, where once we get into the postseason, probably the two best teams in the postseasons are going to get to the World Series?
Not necessarily. I think, we've seen kind of our share of upsets. You look at the Indians in 2016, and, I don't think a lot of people going into those playoffs thought they would beat Boston in the ALDS, which they did, and ended up going to the World Series. And then conversely, in 2017, the Indians looked unbeatable, and then they got knocked off by the Yankees in the first round. So, I think the division series has become a great equalizer in these postseason. Like you said, a 7-game series, the better team usually wins, but not so much in a 5-game series in that division series. And you've seen over the years here, especially lately, a lot of outstanding teams get knocked off by lesser opponents in that first round in a short series. So it'll be fun, and I thought it would have been interesting, a 16-team playoff, so I'm not big on watering down the postseason, but I thought this year, because of the unique aspect of the whole season, I was really looking forward to a 16-game playoffs, first round of best of 3. I think anything could have happened in that scenario, and I was a little disappointed that didn't work out.
The last time we had you on, John, and before we let you go, I got to ask. The last time we had you on, the strike was, or not the strike, but the inability to get the two sides together was the major topic. And now that we have, and I use air quotes and sarcasm, peace, which there's anything but, you don't have fans in the stands. And Anthony and I have been talking about this. If Major League Baseball wants to make some inroads and to get some people involved that may not be watching baseball, why isn't Major League Baseball immediately announcing, hey, for all you people that are watching Major League Baseball, subscribing to MLB TV, subscribing to the Extra Innings package, we're going to drop the blackout, the whole rigmarole, because there's not going to be any fans. There's no reason for us to have the blackout. We're dropping the blackout this year. Why is Major League Baseball continuing to say we're going to keep the blackout with no fans? I mean, I don't understand this, John.
I would go even one step further and say MLB TV is free this year. If I were baseball, I'd say, hey, we know a lot of people are in dire financial straits. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have had their hours cut. A lot of people have had their pay cut. And we know it's become more of a luxury item to be able to watch these games. And I would have made it free if I were Major League Baseball. It would have been an incredibly good goodwill gesture. But as we found out, Ron, everything in baseball is about money in Major League Baseball, and that overrides any other PR, any other goodwill. And sadly, it just gets more and more money-oriented every single year. And, I just don't like that idea at all that they still have the blackouts. And again, it's money. They want to protect the regional sports networks, ratings, and things like that. And I think, they're very myopic sometimes. They can't see the forest for the trees.
I got your vote for commissioner, kid. If there's a national election, my name ain't powerful like yours is in baseball. I would be supporting you for the commissioner based on what you just said, because I think this is an absolute no-brainer for Major League Baseball to sit back and feel the pain of all of the people that are living in this country that have gone through the hell that we've all gone through in 2020. The idea, not only do you have to pay for this product, but you still have to have the blackout, even though there's not going to be a single fan in that ballpark except for those that are covering the teams for the various media outlets. It's asinine that Major League Baseball is continuing to do what they're doing. This should be free. The blackouts should be dropped, and they should really take advantage of a golden opportunity, and they're not doing it, and that just bothers me to no end.
It does, and it makes no sense. For example, I live across the border here in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, but I can get Indian games on my TV package, even though Cleveland's only an hour and 45 minutes from where I live. Yet Philadelphia, which is 5.5 hours from where I live, I can't get Phillies broadcast. They're blacked out. And I called one time and I explained, I said, I don't really live in the Philadelphia market. I'm 5.5 hours away. And they said, well, you're in Pennsylvania, so you're subject to blackout. And that just makes no sense to me at all. I've never figured out the blackout restrictions, and I don't know if I ever will.
Absurd is all I can say. It just that's amazing that they would black out Phillies games but not black out the Indians games when you're a lot closer to Cleveland than you are Philadelphia. Like Major League Baseball, none of this makes sense.
And then, when you're one of those Midwest teams that have a couple of states that you represent, like a Kansas City, you got a lot of people that get blacked out because you're part of their coverage zone. But then, it's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And, I know that when Jeff Passan was at Yahoo, he used to write about that quite a bit. And Major League Baseball would just poo-poo it and say, well, those are the rules, instead of saying, well, maybe it makes some sense. Maybe we should rethink them. And that's the problem. That's why baseball is losing fans. That's why attendance is down. That's why TV ratings are down. Because they try to do it, they do more things to alienate the fans than they do to attract fans. And it's really sad. And the saddest part is the people running the game have no idea that they're doing it. They're just totally oblivious to it. That's the arrogance that they have in the central offices in New York.
Well, and these are the same people that are going to be telling 42 minor league baseball cities, sorry about your luck. We're going to move forward without you. I mean, you talk about alienating people. If this happens, and well, Lord knows if it happens or not, due to the fact we didn't have minor league baseball this year, I find it hard to believe that they would do this. But then again, you never know with baseball.
Well, it seems like they're going to go through with it, and it's really sad. You would have thought, especially this year, with the minor league season completely wiped out at all levels, that they would have said, hey, you know what, let's put this decision off at least one more year. I mean, if nothing else, and I mean, even if you're going to cut teams, if you're going to cut Mahoning Valley, if you're going to cut different teams, at least give the fans a chance to say goodbye and pay their final respects at the very, very least to these teams. I mean, these teams are an important part of the community that they're in, and to take them away is bad enough, but to do it following the season when there were no games is, to me, is heartless.
Cowardly and heartless. Hey, John, always a pleasure. I look forward to talking baseball with you soon. And fingers crossed, anyone that's covering the Pirates or the Indians, you got to stay well away from the other people at work. But fingers crossed our paths meet in PNC or at Progressive this summer.
Sounds good, Ron. Thanks for having me.
You got it. John Perrotto, he covers the Pirates, covers Major League Baseball, and he is one of the best to do his craft. He is a hell of a baseball writer. I know that.